pleasures he finds no satisfaction. The disciple who is fully awakened delights only in the destruction of all desires. Men, driven by fear, go to many a refuge, to mountains and forests, to groves and sacred trees. But that is not a safe refuge. That is not the best refuge. A man is not delivered from all pains after having gone to that refuge. He who takes refuge with Buddha, the law, and the church, he who, with clear understanding, sees the four holy truths, pain, the origin of pain, the destruction of pain, and the eightfold holy way that leads to the quieting of pain. That is the safe refuge. That is the best refuge. Having gone to that refuge, a man is delivered from all pain. A supernatural person, a Buddha, is not easily found. He is not born everywhere. Wherever such a sage is born, that race prospers. Happy is the arising of the awakened. Happy is the teaching of the true law. Happy is peace in the church. Happy is the devotion of those who are at peace. He who pays homage to those who deserve homage, whether the awakened Buddha or their disciples, those who have overcome the host of evils and crossed the flood of sorrow. He who pays homage to such as have found deliverance and know no fear, this merit can never be measured by anybody. Happiness. Let us live happily then, not hating those who hate us. Among men who hate us, let us dwell free from hatred. Let us live happily then, free from ailments among the ailing. Among men who are ailing, let us dwell free from ailments. Let us live happily then, free from greed among the greedy. Among men who are greedy, let us dwell free from greed. Let us live happily then, though we call nothing our own. We shall be like the bright gods, feeding unhappiness. Victory breeds hatred, for the conquered is unhappy. He who has given up both victory and defeat, he, the contented, is happy. There is no fire like passion. There is no losing throw like hatred. There is no pain like this body. There is no happiness higher than rest. Hunger is the worst of diseases, the body the greatest of pains. If one knows this truly, that is nirvana, the highest happiness. Health is the greatest of gifts, contentedness the best riches. Trust is the best of relationships. Nirvana, the highest happiness. He who has tasted the sweetness of solitude and tranquility is free from fear and free from sin, while he tastes the sweetness of drinking in the law. The sight of the elect, Peoria, is good. To live with them is always happiness. If a man does not see fools, he will be truly happy. He who walks in the company of fools suffers a long way. Company with fools, as with an enemy, is always painful. Company with the wise is pleasure, like meeting with kinsfolk. Therefore, one ought to follow the wise, the intelligent, the learned, the much enduring, the dutiful, the elect. One ought to follow a good and wise man, as the moon follows the path of the stars. Pleasure. He who gives himself to vanity and does not give himself to meditation, forgetting the real aim of life and grasping at pleasure, will in time envy him who has exerted himself in meditation. Let no man ever look for what is pleasant or what is unpleasant. Not to see what is pleasant is pain, and it is pain pleasant. Let therefore no man love anything. Loss of the beloved is evil. Those who love nothing and hate nothing have no betters. From pleasure comes grief. From pleasure comes fear. He who is free from pleasure knows neither grief nor fear. From affection comes grief. From affection comes fear. He who is free from affection knows neither grief nor fear. From lust comes grief. From lust comes fear. He who is free from lust knows neither grief nor fear. From love comes grief. From love comes fear. He who is free from love knows neither grief nor fear.
And all my life, was never my drug of choice. You know, I'm weak when it comes to that. But when it comes to working my country,
knows neither grief nor fear.
The sky will fall before I betray my country.
Virtue and intelligence.
So,
who is
that? I'm rock
solid.
solid.
The truth.
I know there's a lot of other guys out there just like that. You pay like President Trump. He's not perfect either, but I believe he loves this country.
He in whom a desire for the ineffable nirvana
I don't know about some of the people around
was satisfied in his mind,
so
and whose thoughts are not bewildered by love. He is called Erdfum Sorotis, carried upwards by the stream.
So when they go active to try to destroy this country from the inside out and prevent a civil war and prevent mass chaos and in the middle of all that attack, railway lines, Mohammed attacks, that's coming, guys. So when that happens, the country has a risk of being destroyed from the inside out. Operation after that. The same guy that wrote 1 Second After about the vulnerability of EMP strikes, right? By William R. Forsythe. William Forsythe. It's called Day of Wrath. And in that, he says, imagine what would happen if 6 jihadis in body armor AK-47s attacked elementary school across the country. That's multiple cells. Just pick a city. Across the whole city. 6 men in body armor AKs attack an elementary school. And then when the first responders respond, IEDs go off. You know, car bombs go off to kill the first responders. And when parents are rushing to go and save their kids, they're ambushed by other team jihadis. That's what he lays out in this novella. It's like, hey, imagine this scenario. And this was written, years ago. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do. The most vulnerable target in our communities is our kids, our schools. So better than that. That's a great point. Well, no, that's not the point. They want to cause mass terror and death. That's their motivation. But in the middle of that, then you can imagine, like I said, attacks on infrastructure. Your police force, we've seen this in disaster relief. We did like 14 major hurricanes. Disaster relief mission started with Hurricane Harvey in Texas, including Puerto Rico, multiple times in Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, all over the place. We saw over and over again that after a hurricane, the local police are overwhelmed. Looters come out, carjackings and truck jackings happen because they know that the police are spread too thin. There's never, ever enough cops to ever provide protection in a natural disaster. It just doesn't happen. That goes back to the point. We need militia in this country. We are relying on professional protectors, police and military, who will be spread too thin. If you don't have an organized militia, you will not have local security unless your neighbors come together like an ad hoc, pickup football team to go and do it under duress. If it's going to wind up happening. I've said this before over the years. You will wind up on your front lawn with a shotgun and rifle after natural disasters. It's going to happen. That's just reality. Okay? So why not prepare yourself and do it ahead of time? That's what I was before I was a felon. I always carried a rifle with an AR-15 in my truck with plate carrier and at least 4 magazines with a knife sack, extra free tourniquets, and a rock. Always did that because it's to have us all organized in our communities so the local cops know us by sight, know how to identify us together in the militia. We all train together, we train with local law enforcement. We have a sheriff who actually has a sheriff's posse, like Sheriff Arpaio did in Maricopa County, a 3,000-man posse. Not all of them carry guns, so there's old people that, he did have an element, he called it the search and rescue unit, but they were guys in Jeeps with AR-15s, and they were well trained. Not all of them carry guns, so there's old people that, man like traffic cones and things like that. But he did have an element, he called it the search and rescue unit, but they were guys in Jeeps with AR-15s, and they were well trained. And they were in good shape. So my point is that every sheriff should have a posse. All these sheriffs in the CSPA that say they're a constitutional sheriff, ask them where their posse is. Unless they have a posse like Sheriff Arpaio has, they're full of crap. What do you know right now? They're just politicians mouthing what they know you want to hear, but they're not taking care of your infrastructure. They're not ready for a jihadi cell attacks in their neighborhoods, in their city. They're not ready for the cartels going active also. They're not ready for any of that. So until they raise a posse, they have the authority to do so. Until they do, they're just posers. So that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to call them out right now. I don't care who they are. Same goes for your governors. If your governors will not call you up as the militia, get you organized and trained, then they need to go. If your state legislature won't step up and organize and train you as they have the authority to do as a militia, they need to go. That's why I'm saying President Trump needs to do it. He can do it right now. All these weenie sheriffs are not going to do it. I've been trying for years to get them to do it. They just won't do it. I've given up on them. The only one that ever did it was Sheriff Arpaio.
It's good, Ron. Go ahead, Ron.
Politicians, you can't rely on them either. But right now, President Trump has the ability to do it. That's why one thing you all could do, more important than anything else we're talking about, is encourage him to call up the militia and form us into county units and then deploy us down to the border. But I'm gonna write this up as a proposal. I need to do that. I'm gonna sit down this next week, and that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write it all out. Here's his basis, constitutional basis. Here's his federal statute basis. Here's what he needs to do. And maybe I'll enlist Ivan to help me do this. But let's write this up as a proposal, and then give it to him. And we'll cite all the appearances on Sean Ryan's podcast by terror experts. John Wandel has been ringing the bell about this. Sarah Adams, Sean has himself, right? So they've been saying this is what's coming, people. It's not a hypothesis. This is what we know is coming. They've told us they're going to do this. Al Qaeda has already announced it. They're going to do this in the United States. So what President Trump can do and must do is revitalize the militia.
Can I finish saying what I was going to say?
Yeah, go ahead, Billy.
I'm sorry, man. I got on a rant there. Go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
You're good. So to get at what he was building at, which I am certain via his circumstance, he knows through and through. The best way to perceive the circumstance at hand would be this. Look at the quote-unquote U.S. government as the mob, right? It is the mob.
Really?
The moment you begin to see it as that, and then understand that all of these alphabet soup agencies are the exact same entity, you will come to the conclusion that everything makes sense. Until you can actually see the hands of that puppet master, everything is just chaos.
We got the point.
Right?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Then,
I agree. Yeah, go ahead.
then what you need to understand is that the Fraternal Order of Police is a terrorist organization, and I will land there.
Thank you. If you guys can keep the points quick, we want to get questions.
I mean, hey, look, in my organization, about 30% of my membership was cops. These were good men. They became police for the right reason. They're good cops. But they would tell you stories about bad cops. I had one guy that used to be a undercover narcotics guy. He was going out there and snaring drug trafficking rings. But then he realized that the CIA was the biggest drug trafficking cartel in the world, and he just realized, what's the point of this? The drug war is a complete joke. And drug war is a joke anyway. You can't keep drugs out of prison. I watched every day my unit in China overdosing on drugs. It's ridiculous. It's like prohibition didn't work. Drug prohibition does not work. All it does is create a black market for drugs that makes billions of dollars, trillions of dollars every year for the cartels and for the politicians.
It is designed specifically to do exactly that.
Oh yeah,
Yes, we're not going to have interruptions.
and they don't want that.
Here at Stewart.
No, you're good. No, you're right, and they don't want that to end. So it leads to dirty cops. Okay, I thought when I was working in a gun shop in Vegas, I was there as a concealed carry instructor, and I started managing a gun shop. I watched local narcotics guys rolling in with brand new Corvettes, brand new Harleys, things they had confiscated from people, whether they were actually drug dealers or not, I don't know. But they benefited from the drug war because they got to roll around in cool toys. And their department got a lot of money from all of these assets from people they accused, just accused. You had asset forfeiture in this country that's been done to people, no trial. They just take their stuff, say it was involved in drugs, and then they have to fight to get their stuff back. That's as bad as the red flag bills where your guns are taken and you got to hire a lawyer, spend $10,000 to get your guns back. Same kind of crap. So my point is that the drug war has led to corruption, and it is in every department in the country, just as the drug war has led to corruption in the DOJ and state prosecutions too. You've got corrupt attorneys now, prosecutors who go out there, and it's the same crap. I've met tons of guys in prison who are in there for what we call ghost guns or ghost drugs. In other words, no actual drugs were found, no guns were found, just some other poor sap who got wrapped up and accused of something was coerced into testifying to say that I saw Joe Schmo with guns or drugs. And on that testimony alone, juries across the country put people in prison. And the feds love to do this. So I'm just saying, it's rotten. So a big part of it is the war on drugs. It needs to go away. You should treat drugs exactly the same as you treat alcoholism. You wouldn't have 100,000 Americans dead from fentanyl if you had legalized drugs that people just go buy simply to do alcohol. I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, your drugs are ridiculous. Look what happened in Portland. Do you want 100,000 dead Americans? Then don't have the cartels being the source for people that are wanting pain pills and can't get them, or wanting a temporary escape. It's not a death sentence. Because a teenager decided to get high, they don't deserve to friggin' die. If you believe that, then you're soulless. They don't deserve it. And same goes for all these men that I met in prison. They're in there because they were low-level drug users, and they're wrapped up and accused of being like one kid, like 20 years old. He was in there for conspiracy to distribute. And also what happened is that he had to take a plea deal because a drug dealer he bought some pills from sold some pills to somebody else, a girl who died of fentanyl overdose. They found this kid's number in the drug dealer's phone. So they wrapped this kid up and said he was involved in a conspiracy to distribute that led to her death. So they threatened him with like 30 years in prison, or he can take 5. He took 5. He was just a low-level purchaser of pills because he got hooked on prescription pills, and then when he couldn't get them from a doctor, he went and bought them from a drug dealer. So I'm just saying, but the point is that it leads to injustice and it leads to corruption. So yes, you have a problem in this country with dirty cops. That's a problem. What I don't like about Black Lives Matter is they try to make it all about black people. So the only people that are being abused by cops in this country are black. And then they also, of course, no matter what is going on, if it's a black person, they argue that the shooting was unjustified, even if the guy was pulled a knife or pulled a gun. So it's a mess, is what I'm saying. But there's a legitimate problem with bad cops doing bad things to people that ends up in them, killing people or abusing their civil rights, and that needs to be fixed.
Okay, so real quick, some parameters as we go forward, guys. I do not want to interrupting. If you have a question for Stuart,
you got it's cool, man. It's good. I tend to go on too long, so I don't mind.
No, you're good. But I'm gonna moderate this. It's not you. It's that we have people that jump in the middle of you talking. And
that's cool. We're having a conversation. Just picture we're all just having beers around a table. I don't mind. I really don't.
I get it, but I run things a particular way because we don't want people talking over each other. So I get it. You're a humble guy. Let me go to Ron. Go ahead, Ron.
Hey, thanks, man. And I agree with the parameters. Hold it, raise your hand, wait, get your point across as quickly as possible, and then land the plane, because there's a lot here to unpack. I agree with almost everything you're saying. I say almost because there's some things I couldn't hear because people were talking over. I want to say this. I am in California, all right? I would never advocate for violence. I am a 6-hour academy certified instructor in literally every discipline they've ever had. I train HRT teams, right? I am a California Post instructor. I am a California DOJ CCW instructor, which is just fucking stupid to begin with. And I know a lot about cops out here. And the problem is not just dirty cops or bad cops. The problem is also cops out here in California are just not trained. Most of the cops that I have initially trained with bring their guns to a class in the case, right? Because they get 40 hours of training on a rifle range or pistol range during their academy, and that's it. Maybe, depending upon the department, they have to shoot a qual once or twice per year. That qual is so low level, it's frightening. When I went through my post class, because I had to at 58 years old, and outdid everyone because, I know how to move the trigger to the rear without adding motion to the gun. Some of the things that these guys can't do is because they're not taught. And, it's so easy to explain exactly how to make a hit on a steel target, period, right? It is. And dry fire practice and all these things. But organizing people requires people to not be afraid. And I've been fighting California government since I got here. Hell, you can Google Givens v. Newsom and see what I did during COVID or just anywhere. I am not a fan of government. I believe what President Trump is doing and what I hope that he's doing is as he eliminates a lot of these federal departments and agencies, and a lot of this comes back to states as is constitutionally required, then people will start to see that it is not the big government that is the problem. It's the people who don't hold anybody accountable that are the problem. In California, for Christ's sake, you know that there's been two times since the 1950s in the state of California where Republicans had simple majorities in the legislature here. 1969 and 70, 1995 and 1996. That's it. There's literally nothing you can do to blame anything on Republicans in California. Yeah, Reagan came out of here. Yeah, we've had a couple of Republican governors. Hang on one sec, please. Because what I want to do is land this plane exactly right here, right now. We, the people, must find a way to get the message out that, A, yes, we flipped 10 counties in California in 2024. We'll flip 10 more for the midterms. We flipped 10 more before the presidential election in 2028. We vote Republican again in California for president, and no other swing states matter. But any Republican that wins here wins the country. And now the other part of this puzzle is I'm not sure that after the midterms there will be a Democrat Party or a Republican Party left. There may be a Patriot Party and then other. And that would be a beautiful thing. I'll land it right there. And thank you.
Yeah, one thing I would add to that is that, like, I have family in California. I was born in Fresno. I still have family in California, so I know that California, and frankly, Bud, he might have actually been majority Republican. The problem is you don't have clean elections, right? You got illegal aliens voting, you got all the mass mail-in ballots, all that crap going on, and you got voter voting and all that. So that's one problem. But another problem is, this is important, is that the Republican Party is to blame for continuing to run rhino shills, and that makes patriots throw their hands up and say, well, why am I even going to bother to participate? Because you got people that, whether they're libertarians or old school like Ron Paul Republicans or independents, who just don't show up to vote because they're sick and tired of being, smoke being blown up their ass by the Republican Party, and then they end up with rhinos. So that's one problem. So you have a large number of people out there that just don't vote. They showed up for President Trump because they believe in him. But like we were talking about earlier, we have got to take over our local GOP county party and make sure we have patriots that are in those positions who then cultivate the candidates who are going to be legitimate America First MAGA candidates. And that you have a much better chance of winning because people that are old school John F. Kennedy style Democrats like Robert Kennedy Jr. or Tulsi Gabbard will cross over and come vote for your candidate. That's what I think is the important point to make. So in some ways it is Republicans' party's fault because they are not running 100% MAGA America First candidates, right? They're just not.
You're absolutely right. The Republican Party, I told this to Chris on a call a couple weeks ago, if anyone believes that there is not just as much or more evil on the right as there is on the left, they're wearing blinders. They're absolutely freaking ignorant of what is really going on. And I'm going to throw this last thing out in an Atlanta plane because we had a recall election scheduled for, a couple years ago, right? The reason that was unsuccessful, the only reason that he was not recalled, 2.7 million Trump voters did not show up and vote in that recall election.
Right.
When he landed.
Yeah. Well, yes. So this is what we're seeing right now, too. Like, I work for Condemn USA. I'm their national spokesman. The donations have dried up. I've talked to other people that run MAGA, America First groups around the country. Their donations are drying up. I saw that with the Oath Keepers. When President Trump was elected the first time, I was like, thank God he got elected. But we saw our membership shrunk and our donations went down. People get this idea in their head, we won. President Trump's back in power, so now we can all just go back to sleep. And that's just foolish. The left never does that. They push when they're in power. They push when they're out of power. They're always pushing their agenda. And like Trent Evans, the guy who started Condemned USA, said something. I saw him for the first time when I arrived at the D.C. jail. One of his employees, Jim Baker, had come to visit me in prison. Awesome patriot. And she came to pick me up along with Bill Hawley. So we drove down in the top chair, but now we got to keep pushing. You've got to encourage the deep state. We've got to encourage them, especially the sold their soul. They must be purged out. The Dan Crenshaw, the Governor Abbott, I'll call him out. I think he's a globalist shill. He'll, like on the border, he'll be crazy. We've done the border operations from California all the way to Texas. And we saw Governor Abbott post a few state police, private patrol, and some concertina wire as a show.
Yeah. I don't know if you can join this X space, but this,
Do we have to listen to this dumb shit?
yeah, I'm a speaker on this big X space right now called Defending Liberty with guest steward Stuart Rhodes. Patriots Unite.
Can I speak through your account if they say something?
No.
Is their mic on?
No, because there's no audio transfer. They won't even be able to hear you.
Then what the fuck are we listening to it for if I can't respond?
I sent you the link. I need you to go on X and join the room.
I don't have X.
Oh, you gotta get it.
I'm not gonna.
You gotta get
My
it.
old phone that you gave, the phone you gave me, I put like Snap and Insta and all that bullshit, and I hate it all. So I don't want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, people give up, they delete.
But you're so fucking demanding of people's times on so many motherfucking different apps.
Yeah, no. Spam, dude. I'm a manual spammer.
Dude, I've been talking with your opponent in Chicago. I told him that I will work for his campaign for free.
Well, that's good because everybody has to work for free because everybody's broke in the whole party. Everybody looks like they fucking live out of their car.
That's such a garbage fucking conversation. Why the fuck are we listening like the further away from the?
Because I want to just get I just want to get a sound clip in and then I'm headed into a hot bath. So.
Well, go take care of your gout, and I'll talk to you later.
Okay, I'll talk to you in like an hour.
Founding fathers, they did not give the royalists, the Tories, right? The king, the ones who were fighting against our founders in the field, they didn't give them a vote at the Continental Congress. When they formed the Continental Congress, it was patriots formed their own new government, and their attitude was F the royalists. We're not going to give them a vote. They didn't get a vote. The royalists who were still loyal to the king didn't get a vote on whether or not to ratify the independence and separate from England. They weren't given a vote. They were given a vote on appropriations for the Continental Army. So the founders, the patriots, formed their own government. What about what the Commission of States is who's going to wind up being a delegate to it? Are you going to have, once again, even within the so-called Republican circles, right? You're going to have establishment shills, global sellouts, who have been bought, paid for, or been bribed, or blackmailed. They're going to be in your convention, and that's for all the marbles. The royalists didn't get to participate in the Continental Congress. They didn't get a chance to participate in the convention that created the Constitution. So I worry about having a so-called convention of the states. We're going to wind up with your enemies, including inside the GOP, taking advantage of that to do more damage to our Constitution.
Tomorrow.
That's the Constitution we have. Why would you want to rewrite it? How's it going to help anything? So I hate to be a pessimist about that. That's what I'm worried about.
I
sincere, and they can explain why they believe that it'll be okay. But I just worry. I mean, the original Constitutional Convention was originally supposed to disband the Articles of Confederation, right? Well, they scrapped the Articles of Confederation and formed a whole new government. It had to be ratified by state convention, but my point still stands. It was the Patriots who did that. They didn't give the Royalists the vote. Like in this country right now, I'm not going to give some Kool-Aid drinking, blue-haired, radical feminist lefty nut job who've been brainwashed into communism a vote on how we're going to amend the Constitution. Now, I'm not going to give some rhino seller Dan Crenshaw on how we're going to amend the Constitution. Dan Crenshaw's anti-gun. He believes
That was.
take the guns first, we're going to process later. He's all about that. That's his damn body, by the way. You know, so there's a problem in our own camp. The founders, you're not going to get that same assembly of people that have that kind of personal experience and commitment to liberty. That's not the only ones you're going to get at a convention of the states. You're going to have your enemies. To win and have someone in power that would get in the grip. That's the bottom line. So that's why I've been realized this criticism is corrupt.
Swedish massage exchange. Yoga.
Small-town criminal defense attorney, and I saw corruption in small-town Montana.
To get rid of the pain.
My county was a reserve sheriff deputy. Talk about a conflict of interest. Is he ever
Unless you want to come over, I'll treat you to lunch, dinner, and a Swedish massage exchange and yoga to get rid of the pain. Stepped up and tried to defend people, but they were outnumbered. And we were like, okay, we're not doing this again. So we went to the next rally that was held in that same park in downtown Berkeley. We were there. I had about 40 young keepers, including 14 armed police officers. The local cops and about 100 other patriots, bikers, and Proud Boys all came together. Patriot Prayer, a bunch of guys. So I did that. Okay, gotcha. So my point is, though, is that the cops have obeyed orders across the country in 2020. They stood down, stood back with the cities burned, stand over was given across the country. So that's what we said, okay, we're going to step in and fill the vacuum. And it helped because we did that twice in downtown Berkeley. Once in March, and then in April, back-to-back rallies. And each time, the cops got better. We gave them an F for that first one we saw online. They just stood back and did nothing. We gave them about a C. I told my cops to agree what they did.
So we came about a C. Second time around, feeling better. The third time, Antifa was not allowed to get anyone near the park. They all started marching from the Berkeley campus toward the park, where the Trump supporters were. The cops were moving close to them. So they were better. So my cops, the keepers, stepping up and doing their damn job for them. There's them doing their job. So that's the point of having good cops step up. Good veterans step up. Even if your local cop, your mom, stand down orders, you can still step up and do the work. And we did that many times. And during natural disaster, there's not enough police to go around. So we wind up escorting team of doctors and nurses to come out of the field. We had soldiers with trucks, so we were being truck jacked. Guard distribution points for disaster relief, like in Houston. Smith Warehouse, run by a patriot businessman, he volunteered to have it be used for disaster relief. Trucks were coming in, filling his warehouse with stuff that they put out, food, water, sanitary supplies, medicine, all that kind of stuff. And he was worried about the local gangs. He had two rival gangs on either side of him. And so he contacted us. He'd seen we were on the rooftops of Ferguson. He saw us on the news, the case against arsonists back in Ferguson, Missouri. So he said, hey, can you guys come protect my warehouse? So we did. We put guys on the rooftop with rifles, same thing. And we did that very overtly so that the local gang members realized that if you come try to steal anything from this warehouse, it's not going to be a good day. And they backed off. So that's where the example we said is what every veteran and every man should be doing in his own community. The big point I was trying to make with the bonds operations is that this should be the local militia that should be handling all of this. It shouldn't take veterans all over the country to go to Ferguson, Missouri, and sit on a rooftop to protect one block of businesses and apartments. It should be done by the local men of Ferguson, Missouri. Okay? And I told the black men of Ferguson, I was like, hey, you guys will organize your own neighborhood watches, all you black veterans here, and patrol your own neighborhoods. Give us the reason for having the police becoming in your neighborhood.
Started off as an intern at Microsoft. You were a witness.
Suppressing the bad actors in it. As I told them, I was like, this is what you should be doing across the country. That's the weakness we have. You shouldn't need oath keepers or
Windows developer, and of course you're a big PC gamer still. You want to just talk about your
the travel and expenses. People do something. The local man should drop the
Good afternoon, all.
the local man
I am Major Steph.
organized and take care of their own shit in their own backyard. It's very frustrating. More frustrating. So when you got to this point,
And I oversee the crime victims unit for the Orleans Fire Sheriff's Office. Once I was notified about the escapees, I immediately gathered
watches, as we call our CPT program, this team is organized. Watches as the base. Each other, all the veterans that know each other, all the ace cops, you guys together, any militia, they might do that before. They turn around and train all the other men, they'll start training together, form a neighborhood watch with teeth. Then you have the neighborhood watches come together and the town watch. They come together as a county watch.
team of experienced staff.
We find a sheriff with the balls actually have a posse with all of our men in the neighborhood watches.
certified cloud.
Become part of the sheriff's posse for the whole county. So that was the structure I was advocating before I got arrested. That we can at least do this on our own as a stopgap. Because we don't have governors and state legislatures that will actually
Further calling victims and survivors, just to make sure that
that's a national guard, and then the rest of us are the unorganized militia. How does that make any sense?
we are aware of
Unorganized militia. In other words, you're just a pool of manpower that's not being utilized, but could be utilized sometime in the future. That's a recipe for friggin' fail. So my idea was, well, at least organize neighborhood watches, and town watches, and then county watches, and hopefully county posses.
Ever since that day, I live with anxiety. I can't sleep. I don't feel well. This woman, who we will call Maria, says she did not want to use her real name.
I turn to the sheriff and say, Sheriff, I want you to know our door is always open. We
Your posse in waiting.
Sure, she will be targeted, but she does want people to know her story.
Whatever you want to. We're more than happy to become your posse. That's what we're working on. It's difficult.
My fellow Americans,
Because they already know. If you try to organize anything in this country, you get infiltrated by the freaking FBI.
it's with great pleasure that I am announcing that
That's the problem. Is that, it's harder to organize people. During a natural disaster, Texas tried to put veteran intimidating police in South Texas. Then you see veterans and officers and shooting rifle shotguns. So what happened? That is the beach. My government. They started portraying those.
Congress is currently debating spending.
Right.
She told
Oh yeah. You want to touch on that?
Now, the amazing thing about human robotics is not just the fact that if it worked, it could be quite versatile. It is likely the only robot that is likely to work. And the reason for that is because technology needs scale. Most of the robotic systems we've had so far are too low volume.
The Marines getting behind declaring that the MAGA movement is the greatest threat to democracy. So, like I said, they integrated with Biden.
And those low volume systems will never achieve.
We're back in the middle of a political firestorm.
Democracy, just flip that to our power. That becomes the MAGA movement is the greatest threat to our power.
Yeah, we're walking on the beach with my wife, so I don't know how we ended up here. It never occurred to me.
See, this band of this group of veterans and police officers, loyal to the Constitution, is a threat to our power. So that's a big one too. And if you're a threat to their power, they're going to say you're a threat to democracy. They're going to smear you as being a racist and fascist and Nazi and all other bullshit. It's all a big smear designed to marginalize you and suppress your movement. And that's what they do. Anybody on the political right who dares to ever go beyond plain old politics. But even in the world of plain old politics, they did it, right? They finally jumped the shark. They began to declare that all Trump voters are racist and Nazis. That's where they ended up. So they're going to call you a racist and Nazi. Well, you might as well go ahead and just organize neighborhood watch, organize a child watch.
Let's not forget they called us trash. Let's not forget that we dared go after our school boards for putting in all the nonsense into the textbooks, right? They went after us, even the FBI came after us, and they had to go in front of Congress in a hearing and explain, we're not going after the MAGA movement, we're not trying to do it, but they were trying to arrest us for that. Even actively doing activism in our local level. We're going to demonize and suppress any threat to their power, and so yes.
Oh, heavy choice. Heavy pick.
Security operations, including expressing literature after hurricanes. Never fired a shot. Never hit anybody or punched or kicked anybody. Never hit anybody with a baton. Never even pepper sprayed anybody. So we just used deterrence alone. We're successful because the bad guys who were carrying guns and bad guys don't want to get shot. So from all over the country, every time we went out, we never had to get shoot because they were afraid to close with us. Because like Antifa and Berkeley, we knew my cops were armed. The police knew, and they said, hey, we're not going to try to tell them. And they told us we couldn't have any weapons in the park. They passed our emergency ordinance the night before, the town of Berkeley did. We did nothing. We couldn't have batons. I bought riot shields for our guys to use. They told us we couldn't use those because they didn't use as a weapon. We couldn't have pepper spray. We couldn't have any batons or brass batons. So I was like, so all you're telling me that all I have is my fists or their guns or whatever. That's the reality. We're not going to tell fellow officers they can't carry in the park. So they let 14 of our cops carry. Retired and current serving law enforcement oath keepers were carrying in the park. I believe Antifa heard about that because they were Antifa and that's a part of it. So they knew about it and they knew. They didn't close on us. They kept rushing into the park. They didn't obey the city ordinance, the emergency ordinance. They came in with chains and poles and homemade shields. It was like Gangs of New York, right? They came charging towards us. We all lined up. We had body armor and helmets on, all of us veterans, and hard knuckle gloves, and some of us wearing cuffs. and then our cops were armed. But Antifa came rushing towards us and stopped about 20 yards away and just froze, didn't close. And then the cops got in between and put yellow tape in between the two sides of the train between the two groups. It was pointing out that Antifa didn't want to dance. That's all I'm saying. But I believe the reason why is because they knew our cops were carrying guns. And also, even if our cops had been there, we would kick their ass anyway. We were a bunch of big old bikers. Like I said, it was a hodgepodge of bikers, Oath Keepers, and Proud Boys. So big dudes. I'm not that big, but there's some guys like 6'5", just big dudes, man. So they were ready to rock. Like what's his name? Tiny, the guy from Patriot Prayer, Nixon Owen, he was there too. He's a knockout artist. So the point is that Antifa didn't want to dance. But nowhere do we use violence, only deterrence. And yet, we're characterized as one of the most violent organizations of the political life to this day. That's the propaganda. And that's what they use against any group that dares to do things they don't like. If you do anything they don't like, including running for office if you're a patriot, they will demonize you. So you also just say, fuck it. I'm going to go do what the right thing is.
And that was the case on January 6th. The government was trying to say that you were planning.
Have your back.
That you were, they'll say that you were like commanding your forces, right? They're trying to make it happen. And then, your whole point was we were just there to be at the event.
No, we're going to do security. We're going to be at the event. We're going to do protect free speech.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, it was deterrent. It was the same thing, right? I mean, that's what you're saying.
All over the country, certain troops in our nation. Protect troops in the world. That's what it's not. That's why we're there. And that's what the Cowboys were doing too. They were there to do the same damn thing. They did it together across the country. They did it their own way. So they were on the streets like Antifa. Okay, I got nothing against that. Power to them. I enjoy watching the videos of them knocking people out who deserve to be knocked out. So we had a different, if we were a lot of cops and kind of military, we had a different tactic. It was just simply pure defense and deterrence to protect people at events. And we would do volunteer escorts. If anybody wanted to be, like, for example, during all the Trump campaign rallies, we would, Antifa knows, when you go into a Trump campaign rally, you got to go through Secret Service. You won't be able to have any weapons on you. So they know that you're out of a Trump rally at night, say if the man is white walking back to the car, they know the man's going to be unarmed, white too, right? They know you're going to be unarmed. You can't take a pepper sometimes. So that's when they would attack people with gloves and pepper spray and things like that, knives and stab people, all kinds of crap was going on. So that's why we started posting up armed retired police and military veterans outside the venue, coordinate with Secret Service. They would know we're there, know where we're going to be, how to identify our guys. Usually has a certain color band and a keeper hat on. And we'd say, okay, we're going to identify people. We stand outside the sign and said, volunteer security escort. If you want volunteer escort to your car, just ask. And if someone was like an older, retired civil veteran, or elderly people, or women and kids, things like that, they would come up to us. We would escort them back to their cars. And Antifa didn't like that. I would say, as a line front for Antifa, I would say for every Oath Keeper you see, there are at least two more you don't see. That's what I would tell them. So that was our line front for Antifa.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, Enrique coming on here and telling us he was stabbed.
Hey Stuart, this is a Republican tree. Can I get put in the queue? I want to ask you a question.
That's interesting. Okay.
Hey Chris, this is Jeremiah Bullfrog actually, so I want to jump on board here with Star Rose and say, pardon my French, respect my Mike inside, but ex-suspect. That being said, I think a clever coup, I'm sorry, and suppression, and this spending my account for one about the talking.
Oh, yeah, hey, I agree.
Yeah, so one of the things I want to talk about, first I want to push back a little bit on the insurrection after President Trump
looked into what that is. It's a subset of for a coup. It's a two-step Russian. Like you said, we got flags with smiley faces and the Congress used two-step Russian. They're going to still refer to impeachment. They're going to set them for a coup. So I don't think that's the way. As far as it comes from military, I do agree that we need to have those in every state. But I think it's the states that need to set them up, just like the National Guard. Well, God, they're not doing that. I agree. It's their duty, but they're not doing it. What my point was is that under federal statute right now, the Militia Act has been there since the founding to provide. Congress had long ago. Congress has the authority to call to provide for calling for the militia to suppress insurrections, repel invasions, and execute the laws of the Union. Congress has done that. The Militia Act has had different forms of it since the very beginning. Okay, that's always been there. It's a constitutional power that is being exercised pursuant to statute passed by Congress, pursuant to Congress's constitutional power. Yes, we can already be formed into militia under our state legislature, state governors, but they will not do it. And the problem with doing it on your own as a private militia is you only get to get a certain small number of people that will do it with you, and you'll be vulnerable to being entrapped, like we've seen over and over and over again. Okay? I say, President Trump had the ability to do it under his command right now and get us formed into real units of every dude in the county. I get it, because I'm in Missouri, and we do have that act on the table ready to be pushed past through. It's just being tabled, and nobody's yelling loud enough to get it. And I actually lived in Ferguson during the time of the Ferguson riot, so you weren't the only one standing out with guns. Just I didn't say that. I never said that, brother. I never said that. Yeah, we were protecting ourselves, but and there were local. We saw pictures of local black guys, standing in front of liquor stores and doing the right thing. Absolutely. Yeah, so don't let stuff is outside atmosphere. What people actually. I agree. I mean, you had some opportunities, but other than that, you're right. So that was other production. Me too. Same thing happened over and over again across the country. You're right. Yep. Outside of the cheers for them. That's right. Yep. And I've said this to a lot of people as well. I mean, it's what we watched take place with George Floyd was supposed to take place at Ferguson. The problem is we had the Governor Greitens who stood up against it, did the right things, brought in, oath keepers, the state troopers, our National Guard to protect federal buildings, like Governor Nixon. I think it was Governor Nixon, wasn't it? No, Eric Greitens, who paid a very, very high price for standing up against George Soros and the back Kim Gardner at that particular time, who was releasing these individuals back on the streets as soon as they were getting arrested. But that's a story for another time, because the reason I came up with something to ask you. You mentioned earlier about you started the Oath Keepers in 2009, and you mentioned the Tea Party. But during that Tea Party, and this is going to tie into January 6th, because obviously I was speaking on this in the Terry space, but I was getting muted by the news and overspoke, but people were gaslighting. But so during the Tea Party, there was an individual, a general, who was calling for a storming the Capitol and citizen arrest of Obama. That same general who would fast track this. I'm going to hold a space on this Wednesday to explain this a lot more in detail. Wednesday at 7, so people are going to do it. General Galloway? I 100% am. Yep, I know you're talking about. That's right, because he was calling for the insurrection and the citizen arrest of Obama, which is the same rhetoric that leads to no, he wasn't. What he was calling for, what he said, is that we need generals and CEOs of major corporations to take over. That's what he said. That we should trust generals who are just politicians and CEOs of major corporations to then take over and run our government. That is an illegitimate coup. I agree. He was saying that as long as we need, as well as we needed people to go to the Capitol and storm the Capitol and then citizens arrest Obama in 2013. But to replace him with a government, supposedly interim government, run by generals and CEOs of major corporations. Talk about from the frying pan into the fire. So I oppose that. You're correct about that. That would have been horrible. Absolutely right.
Now let's lead into January 6th. He was the general that was pushing for the insurrection. I've got it on a podcast that they deleted, but it's on the way back. She was brought back to life.
Well, even the clock is right once a day, right? Or 5 days, actually.
That's 100%. But a lot of that is that was my question that I wanted to ask, particularly with things to 2013 and January 6th. But he's a lot of the rhetoric we've seen flying around here. The attacks of General Flynn and so forth and so on. This is a major part of January 6th because they were also General McNamara working alongside with General Valley were pushing the PCAPs and Dennis Montgomery, the Hammer scorecard that was pushed on to Mike Liddell.
Chase down the wrong hole. Yeah.
Absolutely. Which is where we should have been looking at Seth Kessel with compliance information and the voter rolls, dead voters, the stolen security cards, or social security numbers, and so on, right?
From the election, I just stopped at, they admitted they didn't follow state law. They called it changing the rules, but they just directly violated state election law. So then I looked at that and go, okay, who did that? Well, the state legislature did it. They didn't give it a special session. They could have given by Zoom in a special session to amend their election laws to allow whatever. They could have done that. It's unconstitutional and unlawful. But they didn't. So I don't need to see all the proof of the so-called fraud. I only need to see that they didn't follow state election law. And so when you violate the state election laws designed to prevent fraud and designed to make it easier to see fraud, I don't need to go still try to prove the fraud. I just have to show that you violated state election law. And that triggers a violation of Article 2. It's illegal and unconstitutional. Done. Mic drop. I don't need to see anything else. That was my position. That was John Easton's position, and he was right.
Yeah, 100%. But that rhetoric and propaganda that was being pushed at that particular time is what kept people from people. Essentially, is what gave them the media and Congress the ammo to deem anybody who fixed the election as illegal or domestic or terrorist or extremists.
Hey, I'm going to wrap this up pretty quick here. My friend has got to end this tonight. So I've got like 5 more minutes. So we're going to end that. I said your point, and I agree up to this point, that when you're dealing with a fight to the death against the deep state, and you have an election that in your face has been stolen, and a Chicom puppet's being installed, and you're scrambling to find some way to stop that from happening and defeat it, you use what you have in front of you. And that the constitutional power President had was to call the militia, A, B, declassify. You can still do that now. That's the most peaceful way to do it, is to declassify and expose the bad guys. Once you expose them, that's when you use your power and authority under the Insurrection Act, and I don't believe you should call it the militia. The militia with the people are much safer. It is chaotic as it would have been in a mass media call. It's safer than trusting a bunch of generals. I agree. It would have been terrible to put our future in the hands. There's nowhere in our Constitution that says generals get to run our country. The president is the commander-in-chief. That's it. Everybody else is under his command. And President Trump, while he was still in office, could have invoked the Insurrection Act, could have called us up as a militia. That's why we got our rifles and our refrigerator hotel from Virginia. We didn't bring them to D.C., by the way. That's why we keep the insurrection. The corrupt Chicom puppets, everything, show it to us all, and then we have to deal with how you fix it then. The authority of President Trump as the duly elected commander-in-chief. That's the safe place to put it. Not Jim McDowell and his CEO buddies. I never, ever trusted that for good reason. So your point's well taken, but just so in the context of the emergency we're having in November, December of 2020, what would you have us do? What would you have President Trump do? What's your alternative?
Well, I mean, I think we wouldn't have had a PSYOP running on the back end. We would have had the people that were stood up, like you mentioned before, Terry had mentioned prior to January 6th to stand up and make the call for, this elections to be looked into and so on. So,
Leader manipulated P6 to use it to divert attention and suppress an investigation. Look at the Supreme Court not. The Supreme Court throws into that constitutional crisis when they do their damn job. And Leo and Thomas called them out and said, you guys, we have no discretion how to take this case. We have to take this case. And Roberts refused to do it. And he went along with the ethics on the court. So Kavanaugh, so Barrett, they sided with the lefties. They would not hear the election challenge from Ken Paxton of Texas and Pennsylvania.
This is the way that I look at that is that all started back in 2017 with Cuban conspiracy and all that stuff that was around. Because what they did was allow Congress in 2020 to pass through the House, and then he go to the Senate with the I forget what the bill was called, but it was basically allowing them to deem Mega and QAnon supporters as domestic terrorists and domestic extremists, which gave the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security the ability to survey American citizens.
They're going to do it anyway. The CIA and the FBI has been doing that kind of crap for decades. They have any congressional authorization to do it. They're not going to give it out.
PSYOP to get people sitting on their hands where they should have been.
I think Q was absolutely a PSYOP. Absolutely. Because like you said, you can't people waiting. They don't trust the plan. They were just waiting for this magical plan to materialize. I know there are just a lot of people off for saying this, but hey, I was trying to go to jail with Judge Jensen, right? We were in solitary confinement. And I'd get out of my cell at my break to go take a shower, and I'd come to the judge and start talking to him. He's like, yo, look at this Q drop. He's got mail to people, my wife. He's in solitary confinement. And he's still, drinking the Kool-Aid on Q. He's like, read this. He sat under the door slot, so I go read it, overnight. Next day, I'm like, yeah, this is complete gibberish. This is a bunch of crap. But he was a true believer. I think Q was a friggin' CIA psyop designed to distract Americans and get them spinning their wheels and not focus on real solutions. I think that's absolutely correct.
Well, I think we need the second round coming up. I think if we don't get actionable right now, realistic midterms, then it's going to be Trump's first administration all over again. Because if we lose the House, we're fucked.
Yeah, I agree, man. And I know some good people. I'm not saying Doug's a bad guy. Good guy. But just let you know that there are good people. That's the whole point of psyops. That's the whole point of propaganda. Is that people are twisted and misled down a primrose path that gets them to do it. And they're not primrose can't do. Like I said, we've got physical necessities. We need a militia system that needs to be restored. We need to get away. We need our groundings.
Circling back on you because I spoke out against this that I respect a lot and still do. But I think once this comes out, they'll realize why I stand by the truth. God, country, and my kids. That's it. And whatever it takes, right?
Yeah, amen, man. I mean, that's the thing is, it can be difficult. It can be difficult to know who's real and who's not real. It can be difficult because we've seen so many, posers and grifters, and even in our own movement, right? Even inside the liberty movement, you got grifters. You do. You got talking head grifters that really all they will care about is they're making money. I'm not going to need to handcuff them with super fine stuff, but they're there. And they're really not about anything of themselves. It's just the way it is. But then you got the CIA and the ATHS and FBI running their own modern version of Cartel Pro, infiltrating groups, steering people down the wrong path, and that's going to happen. So whether General Fowler is part of that, whether he was just sincerely a wannabe dictator, I don't know. But yeah, I saw that a long time ago. I was like, nope, I'm not following that.
I got a difference all over it.
But that's different than President Trump doing what he had the authority to do. And I go back to declassification. At the very least, do that. As I told my last letter to him was like just days for the inauguration, like January 9th or something. I was like, at least do this. At least do a mass declassification to expose them. But he didn't do it, unfortunately. He can now. I hope he does. I sincerely hope that Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's got her heart in the right place. I hope that she takes the helm on that. We're going to declassify and expose the deep state. Some of the damn judges. I don't care if they're, like I said, moral letters. Pick a Democrat appointed judge, pick a Republican appointed judge. That are dirty, expose them. Same for good senators. Pick one of them on the Republican Party, or the Democratic Party, expose them. Rinse, repeat all the way through the whole, all three branches, top to bottom, and through the state legislatures too, and state governor's offices. So,
I agree, and I appreciate your time, man. I really appreciate everything you've done for this country.
well, I'll do my best. I kind of feel like Chris Saunders from the tale of the Trojan horse, right? In Troy. So she was gifted with the ability to see the future, but she was cursed. She would tell her father, the king, Priam, that he was going to have his city was going to be destroyed, he would be killed, and he just didn't believe her. So that's kind of how I feel. I'm not the only guy who feels this way, I'm sure. Ivan feels that way, and a bunch of us, you probably feel this way too. People just don't listen. You can see what's coming. They don't freaking listen, and when it shows up, like the jihadi attacks that I know are coming, it's not rocket science, it's coming, guys. Get ready for it. Are you getting ready for it right now? Are you training? Are you organizing with your neighbors? Are you meeting your neighbors? Are you getting off your ass and getting back in shape? Are you getting ready? If you're not doing what you should be doing. So do what you should be doing. And figure out what you want to call it. I don't care what you call it. Call it a watch. But get off your ass and train.
Time tonight, man, and we're gonna get back another time, Kevin. So
happy to. We can pick one topic or two, whatever you want to dive into, and just go. So, I like to book about bookkeepers and my experiences, but I make mistakes. We all make mistakes. There's no such thing as a perfect person, but everyone wants it already. So you can be set for the top ones, or fighters for Trump, or any conspiracy stuff. Other guys tell other fellows to do it first. So a lot of guys have experience dealing with crap around the country, and we should be sharing those and sharing experiences, doing our AARs, and making sure that we have a better in the future. Like, for example, with Week 6, I would have done things differently that day. Would I have still been there? Yes, because your responsibility to be there. But I'd have been much more mindful of the vulnerability of our security teams to being steered into a psyop, into a further event. I wouldn't call J6 a manufactured event, I would call it a manipulated event. We manipulated good people into, like Jessica Watkins might go to bed, call it a lobster trap. That's the way to put it. Easy for you to get in unless you're in your fund. That's kind of how J6 was. They make it easy for everyone to get in the Capitol. Once it got inside, just walking around to the photo shoots, and that car got stopped cops. We can talk about this another time. But they did, that's what called police inside. All that, though, was hidden from the jury, hidden from the public.
They had never seen like this. When they were venturing into jungle, they stumbled upon a spectacle among the herd of
any keeper going in the Capitol or a Proud Boy, because we were already being targeted and put inside. It was easy for them to do their
last June, my wife and I were profoundly moved to join veterans of D-Day at the new National Memorial overlooking Gold Beach as they returned to honor their comrades who never came. It's never really been ahead of me because you've been a guest. And so I just felt like it was something that was meant, because I think you got great takes on it, and I think you know the history of it. And so I didn't want to leave that out tonight. No,
yeah, it's cool, man. Yeah, I think in closing, though, I think the FBI and the CIA should scatter before that. The same thing that JFK threatened to do. That's why they killed him. That's what should be done. The CIA, from its very inception, has been nothing but a shadow government that runs its own foreign policy and its own domestic policy. It's been corrupt. And the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover was in office for life because, even though he's a notorious crossdresser, everyone knew he was a crossdresser and gay, he was in power for life because he had the dirt on all the politicians. They all knew that if anyone crossed him, he would expose them. That's exactly the same kind of blackmail that was back when they used file cabinets, right? Now imagine what it's like with NSA total surveillance with modern electronics. So that same system's in place. That's what needs to be torn down.
On that, we talked about the DIA becoming part of the military. That would be our intelligence apparatus, right? That's how you view it. DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, become part of the military. Was that the take on it, or were you?
I think your military intelligence is more trustworthy. I would trust a naval or Marine Corps Army intelligence officer or Air Force more than I would trust anyone that works for the freaking CIA. All the CIA, everyone out of that office, they can all go party and let them get that guy in the office, right? Basically, the same part. But if someplace else where in front of an empty freaking desk in the cubicle with no computer and say, sit here and twiddle your thumbs, while we go sort through all this crap that you've been collecting on people all these years, all the dirt, and just classified with what your military intelligence trying to do with that. And I don't care which one you use or what vehicle. I think that Tulsi County can figure that out. I'm just sure to do that.
Awesome time, man. We'll do it again. I can tell you that. It is extremely informative.
Can I just ask a quick question about the Federal Reserve and Congress essentially working together to create 40 trillion and this big, beautiful bill creating 20 trillion new debt in 10 years? I mean, isn't that a major problem, the Federal Reserve and Congress creating all this debt?
Absolutely. The Federal Reserve has been a problem from the very beginning, like Ron Paul said a long time ago. It's just taxation. It's another.
In the world of seafood, not all.
He called it a tax. It's a hidden tax.
They kicked me.
It's just taxation. It's a form of what do you call it? He called it a tax. It's a hidden tax. Inflation is a hidden tax. So when they create money out of nothing, they give it to their buddies first. They get full value on the dollar that they just created out of thin air. And then by the time it gets to you, it's devalued. And now they just create it out of digits. It's just digital. I think what we should do is declare a jubilee. None of that national debt any of us signed on to or agreed with. It was all done illegitimately. So I don't think we owe China jack shit, or anybody else for that matter. Just declare a jubilee like he's doing in the Bible, wipe out all the debts and start over again. That's what I would say. So all those trillions of dollars of debt, we don't owe any of that. And we need to end the Federal Reserve, not just audit it, end it. Because all it is a private cartel of bankers. And they just create money out of nothing. And with that comes massive power. And the Chinese do the same thing, by the way. They can also, the Chinese Communist Party can just print up as many, what do they call it, the yuan? They can print those up all day long. They go transfer it into US dollars, and they come buy farmland and businesses in the United States. It doesn't cost them a dime to do that. They just print money out of thin air. Why are we letting that happen? It's just fiat money. They just print up out of nothing and come here and buy out our politicians, buy out our governors, you name it, and then buy our land and factories and businesses too.
And one last one on that. Wouldn't you seize their land that they bought the U.S. to? I mean, shouldn't we do that at this point?
Yeah, of course. That's what I'm saying. All that's illegitimate. There should be no ownership of any land in the United States by anyone. And you can't be a businessman in China without being part of the CCP and having political officers of the CCP on your board and watching everything you do. If you're in business in China, you are the CCP. There's no such thing as a Chinese business that's not the CCP. It doesn't exist.
I'm so glad you hit on this point because I've been pounding the drum on this point. If they're visiting China, they're part of the CCP. If America are...
Well, I mean, if they're doing business in China, they're doing business with the CCP.
Correct.
And that's the problem. We have a lot of businessmen in this country because they're loyal to themselves and their own bottom line first that have sold out to the CCP. You're right. They sold out because they get money out of it. Hey guys, I got to run. I'll use my friend's phone. He's got to go to bed.
All good, brother. We'll do it again sometime, man. It was incredible.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. I really appreciate your input. So, I don't know everything. I just, I know from my own experience, and that's all I can talk from. So.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of experience there. Stuart Rhodes, everybody. We'll do it again sometime. Thank you.
Yeah, hey, I got to put a shout out to Condemn USA. I encourage folks to support them. It's a good organization. It's kind of the ACLU for our side. And donations have dropped off. People think that everything's fine now. It's not. We got Tina Peters. We got other political prisoners out there that still need help. So, at least do something to support Condemn USA. Give us a donation. So you go to givesendgo.com/C as in Charlie, USA. CUSA.
GiveSendGo.com/CUSA to donate to Connect USA. And for my GiveSendGo, it's /Golf Alpha Foxtrot 5 Bravo GAF 5B. I posted that in the chat. I posted that on my profile. I could use a shot in the arm too, guys. I'm just rebuilding my life and trying to figure out what I'm doing next. Until I get a pardon, it's basically much more difficult to earn money. So just so
you know, I put that up top at the beginning. I don't know if you saw that.
Appreciate that. Yeah. And the same goes for all the other J Spacers. Every one of us trying to rebuild their lives. We've been destroyed. So hopefully someday we'll get some kind of lawsuit compensation. But guys, right now we got nothing. Most of our people ain't got nothing. Just the way it is. So, all right, guys. God bless you guys. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate you.
God bless you too.
All right. Bye.
If you guys want to stick around for a little bit of reaction, I'll do it for about another 15 minutes, but we'll get him on again. This is something I was working on really hard. Go ahead, Silent. Your hands up, Silent. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Yeah. Hey, man, this has been a great space. I've been listening the whole night, talked a little bit, but you know, there's one thing, and I got a question. Is Ivan still awake?
We'll see. Maybe not.
Oh, Ivan, you still awake? He's been working hard, though. Okay, so I got a question real quick, and this is a question, okay? I'm going to make a statement real quick. Okay. In 1951, Harry Truman set the precedent of two.
I have 3 truck. Dr. T-Reps is a Jew-hating Northern Irish little cuck who sleeps with his dog every day.
Shit, right? Or anybody else for that matter. If you're a Jubilee, at least do a Bible. Jack shit. Right, Arnie? Jack shit. Right, or anybody else? Jack shit. Right, Arnie? Jack shit.
Okay, we're gonna go back to the Buddha book.
Arlington Nissan has something for you. We have selection. Arlington Nissan has something for you because we never have a
Dream. Kinsmen, friends, and lovers, salute the man who has been long away and returns safe from afar. In like manner, his good works receive him who has done good and has gone from this world to the other, as kinsmen receive a friend on his return. 17. Anger. Let a man leave anger. Let him forsake pride. Let him overcome all bondage. No sufferings befall the man who is not attached to name and form, and who calls nothing his own. He who holds back rising anger like a rolling chariot, him I call a real driver. Other people are but holding the reins. Let a man overcome anger by love. Let him overcome evil by good. Let him overcome the greedy by liberality, the liar by truth. Speak the truth. Do not yield to anger. Give, if thou art asked for little. By these 3 steps thou wilt go near the gods. The sages who injure nobody, and who always control their body, they will go to the unchangeable place, Nirvana, where, if they have gone, they will suffer no more. Those who are ever watchful, who study day and night, and who strive after Nirvana, their passions will come to an end. This is an old saying. O Atula, this is not only of today. They blame him who sits silent. They blame him who speaks much. They also blame him who says little. There is no one on earth who is not blamed. There never was, there never will be, nor is there now a man who is always blamed or a man who is always praised. But he whom those who discriminate praise continually day after day, as without blemish, wise, rich in knowledge and virtue, who would dare to blame him, like a coin made of gold from the Gambu River? Even the gods praise him. He is praised even by Brahman. Beware of bodily anger, and control thy body. Leave the sins of the body, and with thy body practice virtue. Beware of the anger of the tongue, and control thy tongue. Leave the sins of the tongue, and practice virtue with thy tongue. Beware of the anger of the mind, and control thy mind. Leave the sins of the mind, and practice virtue with thy mind. The wise who control their body, who control their tongue, the wise who control their mind, are indeed well controlled. Impurity. Thou art now like a sere leaf. The messengers of death, Yama, have come near to thee. Thou standest at the door of thy departure, and thou hast no provision for thy journey. Make thyself work hard, be wise. When thy impurities are blown away, and thou art free from guilt, thou wilt enter into the heavenly world of the elect, Araya. Thy life has come to an end. Thou art come near to death, Yama. There is no resting place for thee on the road, and thou hast no provision for thy journey. Make thyself an island, work hard, be wise. When thy impurities are blown away, and thou art free from guilt, thou wilt not enter again into birth and decay. Let a wise man blow off the impurities of his self, as a smith blows off the impurities of silver one by one, little by little, and from time to time. As the impurity which springs from the iron, when it springs from it, destroys it. Thus do a transgressor's own works lead him to the evil path. The taint of prayers is non-repetition. The taint of houses, non-repair. The taint of the body is sloth. The taint of a watchman, thoughtlessness. Bad conduct is the taint of woman. Greediness, the taint of a benefactor. Tainted are all evil ways in this world, and in the next. But there is a taint worse than all taints. Ignorance is the greatest taint. O medicants, throw off that taint and become taintless. Life is easy to live for a man who is without shame, a crow hero, a mischief maker, an insulting, bold, and wretched fellow. But life is hard to live for a modest man who always looks for what is pure, who is disinterested, quiet, thoughtless, and intelligent. He who destroys life, who speaks untruth, who in this world takes what is not given to him, who goes to another man's wife, and the man who gives himself to drinking intoxicating liquors, he, even in this world, digs up his own root. O man, know this, that the unrestrained are in a bad state. Take care that greediness and vice do not bring thee to grief for a long time. The world gives according to their faith or according to their pleasure. If a man frets about the food and the drink given to others, he will find no rest either by day or by night. He in whom that feeling is destroyed and taken out with the very root finds rest by day and by night. There is no fire like passion. There is no shark like hatred. There is no snare like folly. There is no torrent like greed. The fault of others is easily perceived, but that of oneself is difficult to perceive. A man winnows his neighbor's faults like chaff, but his own fault he hides, as a cheat hides the bad die from the gambler. If a man looks after the faults of others, and is always inclined to be offended, his own passions will grow, and he is far from the destruction of passions. There is no path through the air. A man is not a samana by outward acts. The world delights in vanity. The Tathagatas, the Buddhas, are free from vanity. There is no path through the air. A man is not a samana by outward acts. No creatures are eternal, but the awakened Buddha are never shaken. The just. A man is not just if he carries a matter by violence. No, he who distinguishes both right and wrong, who is learned and leads others, not by violence, but by law and equity, and who is guarded by the law and intelligent. He is called just. A man is not learned because he talks much. He who is patient, free from hatred and fear, he is called learned. A man is not a supporter of the law because he talks much. Even if a man has learned little, but sees the law bodily, he is a supporter of the law, a man who never neglects the law. A man is not an elder because his head is gray. His age may be ripe, but he is called old in vain. He in whom there is truth, virtue, love, restraint, moderation, he who is free from impurity and is wise, he is called an elder. An envious, greedy, dishonest man does not become respectable by means of much talking only, or by the beauty of his complexion. He in whom all this is destroyed and taken out with the very root. He, when freed from hatred and wise, is called respectable. Not by tonsure does an undisciplined man who speaks falsehood become a samana, and a man be a samana who is still held captive by desire and greediness. He who always quiets the evil, whether small or large, he is called a samana, a quiet man, because he has quieted all evil. A man is not a mendicant, bhikshu, simply because he asks others for alms. He who adopts the whole law is a bhikshu, not he who only begs. He who is above good and evil, who is chaste, who with knowledge passes through the world, he indeed is called a bhikshu. A man is not a muni, because he observes silence, mauna, if he is foolish and ignorant, but the wise who, taking the balance, chooses the good and avoids evil, he is a muni, and is a muni thereby. He who in this world weighs both sides is called a muni. A man is not an elect, araya, because he injures living creatures. Because he has pity on all living creatures, therefore is a man called araya. Not only by discipline and vows, not only by much learning, not by entering into a trance, not by sleeping alone, do I earn the happiness of release which no worldling can know. Bhikshu, be not confident as long as thou hast not attained the extinction of desires. The way. The best of ways is the eightfold. The best of truths, the 4 words. The best of virtues, passionlessness. The best of men, he who has eyes to see. This is the way. There is no other that leads to the purifying of intelligence. Go on this way. Everything else is the deceit of Mara, the tempter. If you go on this way, you will make an end of pain. The way was preached by me when I had understood the removal of the thorns in the flesh. You yourself must make an effort. The Tathagatas, Buddhas, are only preachers. The thoughtful who enter the way are freed from the bondage of Mara. All created things perish. He who knows and sees this becomes passive in pain. This is the way to purity. All created things are grief and pain. He who knows and sees this becomes passive in pain. This is the way that leads to purity. All forms are unreal. He who knows and sees this becomes passive in pain. This is the way that leads to purity. He who does not rouse himself when it is time to rise, who, though young and strong, is full of sloth, whose will and thought are weak, that lazy and idle man will never find the way to knowledge. Watching his speech, well restrained in mind, let a man never commit any wrong with his body. Let a man but keep these three roads of action clear, and he will achieve the way which is taught by the wise. Through zeal, knowledge is gotten. Through lack of zeal, knowledge is lost. Let a man who knows this double path of gain and loss thus place himself that knowledge may grow. Cut down the whole forest of lust, not a tree only. Danger comes out of the forest of lust. When you have cut down both the forest of lust and its undergrowth, then, bhikshus, you will be rid of the forest and free. So long as the love of man towards women, even the smallest, is not destroyed, so long is his mind in bondage, as the calf that drinks milk is to its mother. Cut out the love of self, like an autumn lotus, with thy hand. Cherish the road of peace. Nirvana has been shown by Sugata, Buddha. Here I shall dwell in the rain, here in winter and summer. Thus the fool meditates, and does not think of his death. Death comes and carries off that man, praised for his children and flocks, his mind distracted, as a flood carries off a sleeping village. Sons are no help, nor a father, nor relations. There is no help from kinsfolk for one whom death has seized. A wise and good man who knows the meaning of this should quickly clear the way that leads to nirvana. Miscellaneous. If by leaving a small pleasure one sees a great pleasure, let a wise man leave the small pleasure and look to the great. He who, by causing pain to others, wishes to obtain pleasure for himself, he, entangled in the bonds of hatred, will never be free from hatred. What ought to be done is neglected. What ought not to be done is done. The desires of unruly, thoughtless people are always increasing. But they whose whole watchfulness is always directed to their body, who do not follow what ought not to be done, and who steadfastly do what ought to be done, the desires of such watchful and wise people will come to an end. A true Brahmana goes scatheless, though he have killed father and mother, and 2 valiant kings, though he has destroyed a kingdom with all its subjects. A true Brahmana goes scatheless, though he have killed father and mother, and 2 holy kings, and an eminent man besides. The disciples of Gautama, Buddha, are always well awake, and their thoughts day and night are always set on Buddha. The disciples of Gautama are always well awake, and their thoughts day and night are always set on the law. The disciples of Gautama are always well awake, and their thoughts day and night are always set on the church. The disciples of Gautama are always well awake, and their thoughts day and night are always set on their body. The disciples of Gautama are always well awake, and their mind day and night always delights in compassion. The disciples of Gautama are always well awake, and their mind day and night always delights in meditation. It is hard to leave the world to become a friar. It is hard to enjoy the world. Hard is the monastery. Painful are the houses. Painful it is to dwell with equals to share everything in common, and the itinerant mendicant is beset with pain. Therefore let no man be an itinerant mendicant, and he will not be beset with pain. Whatever place a faithful, virtuous, celebrated, and wealthy man chooses, there he is respected. Good people shine from afar, like the snowy mountains. Bad people are not seen, like arrows shot by night. He alone who, without ceasing, practices the duty of sitting alone and sleeping alone. He, subduing himself, will rejoice in the destruction of all desires alone, as if living in a forest. The downward course. He who says what is not goes to hell. He also who, having done a thing, says I have not done it. After death both are equal. They are men with evil deeds in the next world. Many men whose shoulders are covered with the yellow gown are ill-conditioned and unrestrained. Such evildoers by their evil deeds go to hell. Better it would be to swallow a heated iron ball, like flaring fire, than that a bad, unrestrained fellow should live on the charity of the land. Four things does a reckless man gain who covets his neighbor's wife: a bad reputation, an uncomfortable bed, thirdly, punishment, and lastly, hell. There is bad reputation and the evil way to hell. There is the short pleasure of the frightened in the arms of the frightened, and the king imposes heavy punishment. Therefore let no man think of his neighbor's wife. As a grass blade, if badly grasped, cuts the arm, badly practiced asceticism leads to hell. An act carelessly performed, a broken vow, and hesitating obedience to discipline, all this brings no great reward. If anything is to be done, let a man do it. Let him attack it vigorously. A careless pilgrim only scatters the dust of his passions more widely. An evil deed is better left undone, for a man repents of it afterwards. A good deed is better done, for having done it, one does not repent. Like a well-guarded frontier fort, with defenses within and without, so let a man guard himself. Not a moment should escape, for they who allow the right moment to pass suffer pain when they are in hell. They who are ashamed of what they ought not to be ashamed of, and are not ashamed of what they ought to be ashamed of, such men, embracing false doctrines, enter the evil path. They who fear when they ought not to fear, and fear not when they ought to fear, such men, embracing false doctrines, enter the evil path. They who forbid when there is nothing to be forbidden, and forbid not when there is something to be forbidden, such men, embracing false doctrines, enter the evil path. They who know what is forbidden as forbidden, and what is not forbidden as not forbidden, such men, embracing the true doctrine, enter the good path. abuse as the elephant in battle endures the arrow sent from the bow, for the world is ill-natured. They lead a tamed elephant to battle. The king mounts a tamed elephant. The tamed is the best among men, he who silently endures abuse. Mules are good if tamed, and noble Sindhu horses, and elephants with large tusks. But he who tames himself is better still. For with these animals does no man reach the untrodden country, nirvana, where a tamed man goes on a tamed animal, on his own well-tamed self. The elephant called Dinapalaka, his temples running with sap and difficult to hold, does not eat a morsel when bound. The elephant longs for the elephant grove. If a man becomes fat and a great eater, if he is sleepy and rolls himself about, that fool, like a hog fed on wash, is born again and again. This mind of mine went formerly wandering about as it liked, as it listed, as it pleased, but I shall now hold it in thoroughly, as the rider who holds the hook holds in the furious elephant. Be not thoughtless, watch your thoughts. Draw yourself out of the evil way, like an elephant sunk in mud. If a man find a prudent companion who walks with him, is wise and lives soberly, he may walk with him, overcoming all dangers, happy but considerate. If a man find no prudent companion who walks with him, is wise and lives soberly, let him walk alone, like a king who has left his conquered country behind, like an elephant in the forest. It is better to live alone. There is no companionship with a fool. Let a man walk alone. Let him commit no sin, with few wishes, like an elephant in the forest. If an occasion arises, friends are pleasant. Enjoyment is pleasant, whatever be the cause. A good work is pleasant in the hour of death. The giving up of all grief is pleasant. Pleasant in the world is the state of a mother. Pleasant the state of a father. Pleasant the state of a samana. Pleasant the state of a brahmana. Pleasant is virtue lasting to old age. Pleasant is a faith firmly rooted. Pleasant is attainment of intelligence. Pleasant is avoiding of sins. 24. Thirst. The thirst of a thoughtless man grows like a creeper. He runs from life to life like a monkey seeking fruit in the forest. Whomsoever this fierce thirst overcomes, full of poison, in this world his sufferings increase like the abounding piranha grass. He who overcomes this fierce thirst, difficult to be conquered in this world, sufferings fall from him like water drops from a lotus leaf. This salutary word I tell you, do ye as many as are here assembled. Dig up the root of thirst, as he who wants the sweet-scented Usira root must dig up the piranha grass, that Mara, the tempter, may not crush you again and again, as the stream crushes the reeds. As a tree, even though it has been cut down, is firm so long as its root is safe, and grows again. Thus, unless the feeders of thirst are destroyed, the pain of life will return again and again. He whose thirst running towards pleasure is exceeding strong in the 36 channels. The waves will carry away that misguided man, his desires which are set on passion. The channels run everywhere. The creeper of passion stands sprouting. If you see the creeper springing up, cut its root by means of knowledge. A creature's pleasures are extravagant and luxurious. Sunk in lust and looking for pleasure, men undergo again and again birth and decay. Men, driven on by thirst, run about like a snared hare, held in fetters and bonds. They undergo pain for a long time, again and again. Men, driven on by thirst, run about like a snared hare. Let therefore the mendicant drive out thirst by striving after passionlessness for himself. He who, having got rid of the forest of lust, after having reached nirvana, gives himself over to forest life, to lust, and who, when removed from the forest from lust, runs to the forest to lust. Look at that man. Though free, he runs into bondage. Wise people do not call that a strong fetter which is made of iron, wood, or hemp. Far stronger is the care for precious stones and rings, for sons and a wife. That fetter wise people call strong, which drags down, yields, but is difficult to undo. After having cut this at last, people leave the world, free from cares, and leaving desires and pleasures behind. Those who are slaves to passions run down with the stream of desires, as a spider runs down the web which he has made himself. When they have cut this, at last, wise people leave the world free from cares, leaving all affection behind. Give up what is before, give up what is behind. Give up what is in the middle, when thou goest to the other shore of existence. If thy mind is altogether free, thou wilt not again enter into birth and decay. If a man is tossed about by doubts, full of strong passions and yearning only for what is delightful, his thirst will grow more and more, and he will indeed make his fetters strong. If a man delights in quieting doubts and, always reflecting, dwells on what is not delightful, the impurity of the body, etc., he certainly will remove, nay, he will cut the fetter of Mara. He who has reached the consummation, who does not tremble, who is without thirst and without sin, he has broken all the thorns of life. This will be his last body. He who is without thirst and without affection, who understands the words and their interpretation, who knows the order of letters, those which are before and which are after, he has received his last body. He is called the great sage, the great man. I have conquered all. I know all. In all conditions of life I am free from taint. I have left all, and through the destruction of thirst I am free, having learnt myself. Whom shall I teach? The gift of the law exceeds all gifts. The sweetness of the law exceeds all sweetness. The delight in the law exceeds all delights. The extinction of thirst overcomes all pain. Pleasures destroy the foolish, if they look not for the other shore. The foolish by his thirst for pleasure destroys himself, as if he were his own enemy. The fields are damaged by weeds. Mankind is damaged by passion. Therefore a gift bestowed on the passionless brings great reward. The fields are damaged by weeds. Mankind is damaged by hatred. Therefore a gift bestowed on those who do not hate brings great reward. The fields are damaged by weeds. Mankind is damaged by vanity. Therefore a gift bestowed on those who are free from vanity brings great reward. The fields are damaged by weeds. Mankind is damaged by lust. Therefore a gift bestowed on those who are free from lust brings great reward. The Bhikshu, mendicant. Restraint in the eye is good. Good is restraint in the ear. In the nose, restraint is good. Good is restraint in the tongue. In the body, restraint is good. Good is restraint in speech. In thought, restraint is good. Good is restraint in all things. A bhikshu, restrained in all things, is freed from all pain. He who controls his hand, he who controls his feet, He who controls his speech, he who is well controlled, he who delights inwardly, who is collected, who is solitary and content, him they call Bhikshu. The Bhikshu who controls his mouth, who speaks wisely and calmly, who teaches the meaning and the law. His word is sweet. He who dwells in the law, delights in the law, meditates on the law, follows the law, that Bhikshu will never fall away from the true law. Let him not despise what he has received, nor ever envy others. A mendicant who envies others does not obtain peace of mind. A Bhikshu who, though he receives little, does not despise what he has received. Even the gods will praise him, if his life is pure, and if he is not slothful. He who never identifies himself with name and form, and does not grieve over what is no more, he indeed is called a Bhikshu. The Bhikshu who acts with kindness, who is calm in the doctrine of Buddha, will reach the quiet place, nirvana, cessation of natural desires, and happiness. O Bhikshu, empty this boat. If emptied, it will go quickly. Having cut off passion and hatred, thou wilt go to nirvana. Cut off the five senses, leave the five, rise above the five. A Bhikshu who has escaped from the five fetters, he is called Okatina, saved from the flood. Meditate, O Bhikshu, and be not heedless. Do not direct thy thought to what gives pleasure, that thou mayest not for thy heedlessness have to swallow the iron ball in hell, and that thou mayest not cry out when burning, this is pain. Without knowledge there is no meditation. Without meditation there is no knowledge. He who has knowledge and meditation is near unto nirvana. A Bhikshu who has entered his empty house, and whose mind is tranquil, feels a more than human delight when he sees the law clearly. As soon as he has considered the origin and destruction of the elements, khandha, of the body, he finds happiness and joy which belong to those who know the immortal nirvana. And this is the beginning here for a wise Bhikshu: watchfulness over the senses, contentedness, restraint under the law. Keep noble friends whose life is pure and who are not slothful. Let him live in charity, let him be perfect in his duties. Then in the fullness of delight he will make an end of suffering. As the Vasika plant sheds its withered flowers, men should shed passion and hatred, O ye Bhikshus. The Bhikshu whose body and tongue and mind are quieted, who is collected, and has rejected the baits of the world, he is called quiet. Rouse thyself by thyself, examine thyself by thyself. Thus, self-protected and attentive, wilt thou live happily, O Bhikshu. For self is the lord of self, self is the refuge of self. Therefore, curb thyself, as the merchant curbs a good horse. The Bhikshu, full of delight, who is calm in the doctrine of Buddha, will reach the quiet place, nirvana, cessation of natural desires, and happiness. He who, even as a young Bhikshu, applies himself to the doctrine of Buddha, brightens up this world like the moon when free from clouds. "26. The Brahmana, Arhat. Stop the stream valiantly. Drive away the desires, O Brahmana. When you have understood the destruction of all that was made, you will understand that which was not made. If the Brahmana has reached the other shore in both laws, in restraint and contemplation, all bonds vanish from him who has obtained knowledge. He for whom there is neither this nor that shore, nor both him, the fearless and unshackled, I call indeed a Brahmana. He who is thoughtful, blameless, settled, dutiful, without passions, and who has attained the highest end, him I call indeed a Brahmana. The sun is bright by day, the moon shines by night. The warrior is bright in his armor. The Brahmana is bright in his meditation. But Buddha, the awakened, is bright with splendor day and night. Because a man is rid of evil, therefore he is called Brahmana. Because he walks quietly, therefore he is called Samana. Because he has sent away his own impurities, therefore he is called Pravragita, a pilgrim. No one should attack a Brahmana, but no Brahmana, if attacked, should let himself fly at his aggressor. Woe to him who strikes a Brahmana, and woe to him who flies at his aggressor. It advantages a Brahmana not a little if he holds his mind back from the pleasures of life. When all wish to injure has vanished, pain will cease. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who does not offend by body, word, or thought, and is controlled on these 3 points. After a man has once understood the law as taught by the well-awakened Buddha, let him worship it carefully, as the Brahmana worships the sacrificial fire. A man does not become a Brahmana by his plaited hair, by his family, or by birth. In whom there is truth and righteousness, he is blessed. He is a Brahmana. What is the use of plaited hair, O fool? What of the raiment of goat skins? Within thee there is ravening, but the outside thou makest clean. The man who wears dirty raiments, who is emaciated and covered with veins, who lives alone in the forest and meditates, him I call indeed a Brahmana. I do not call a man a Brahmana because of his origin or of his mother. He is indeed arrogant and he is wealthy, but the poor, who is free from all attachments, him I call indeed a Brahmana. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who has cut all fetters, who never trembles, is independent and unshackled. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who has cut the strap and the thong, the chain with all that pertains to it, who has burst the bar and is awakened. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who, though he has committed no offense, endures reproach, bonds, and stripes, who has endurance for his force and strength for his army. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who is free from anger, dutiful, virtuous, without appetite, who is subdued and has received his last body. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who does not cling to pleasures, like water on a lotus leaf, like a mustard seed on the point of a needle. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who, even here, knows the end of his suffering, has put down his burden, and is unshackled. Him I call indeed a Brahmana whose knowledge is deep, who possesses wisdom, who knows the right way and the wrong, and has attained the highest end. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who keeps aloof both from laymen and from mendicants, who frequents no houses and has but few desires. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who finds no fault with other beings, whether feeble or strong, and does not kill nor cause slaughter. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who is tolerant with the intolerant, mild with the fault finders, and free from passion among the passionate. Him I call indeed a Brahmana from whom anger and hatred, pride and envy have dropped like a mustard seed from the point of a needle. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who utters true speech, instructive and free from harshness, so that he offend no one. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who takes nothing in the world that is not given him, be it long or short, small or large, good or bad. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who fosters no desires for this world or for the next, has no inclinations, and is unshackled. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who has no interests, and when he has understood the truth, does not say how, and who has reached the depth of the immortal. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who in this world is above good and evil, above bondage of both, free from grief from sin, and from impurity. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who is bright like the moon, pure, serene, undisturbed, and in whom all gaiety is extinct. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who has traversed this miry road, the impassable world and its vanity, who has gone through and reached the other shore, is thoughtful, guileless, free from doubts, free from attachment and content. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, who in this world, leaving all desires, travels about without a home, and in whom all concupiscence is extinct. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who, leaving all longings, travels about without a home, and in whom all covetousness is extinct. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who, after leaving all bondage to men, has risen above all bondage to the gods, and is free from all and every bondage. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who has left what gives pleasure and what gives pain, who is cold and free from all germs of renewed life, the hero who has conquered all the worlds. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who knows the destruction and the return of beings everywhere, who is free from bondage, welfaring, Sugata, and awakened, Buddha. Him I call indeed a Brahmana whose path the gods do not know, nor spirits, Gandharvas, nor men whose passions are extinct, and who is an arhat, venerable. Him I call indeed a Brahmana who calls nothing his own, whether it be before, behind, or between, who is poor and free from the love of the world. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, the manly, the noble, the hero, the great sage, the conqueror, the impassible, the accomplished, the awakened. Him I call indeed a Brahmana, who knows his former abodes, who sees heaven and hell, has reached the end of births, is perfect in knowledge, a sage, and whose perfections are all perfect.
At Domino's, now you can carry out a one-topping pizza with any of our 5 crust types, and you can order any way you want to, online or by phone. So choose hand-tossed, crunchy thin crust, gluten-free, New York style, or handmade pan. And your favorite topping from Domino's.
The Voice of the Silence by H.P. Blavatsky. Narrated by Matthew Schmitz. Preface. The following pages are derived from the Book of the Golden Precepts, one of the works put into the hands of mystic students in the East. The knowledge of them is obligatory in that school, the teachings of which are accepted by many theosophists. Therefore, as I know many of these precepts by heart, the work of translating has been relatively an easy task for me. It is well known that in India, the methods of psychic development differ with the gurus, teachers, or masters not only because of their belonging to different schools of philosophy, of which there are 6, but because every guru has his own system, which he generally keeps very secret. But beyond the Himalayas, the method in the esoteric schools does not differ, unless the guru is simply a lama, but little more learned than those he teaches. The work from which I here translate forms part of the same series as that from which the stanzas of the Book of Zion were taken, on which the secret doctrine is based, together with the great mystic work called Paramartha, which the legend of Nagarjuna tells us was delivered to the great Arhat by the Nagas or serpents, in truth a name given to the ancient initiates. The Book of the Golden Precepts claims the same origin. Yet its maxims and ideas, however noble and original, are often found under different forms in Sanskrit works, such as the Jnanasvari, that superb mystic treatise in which Krishna describes to Arjuna in glowing colors the condition of a fully illumined yogi, and again in certain Upanishads. This is but natural, since most, if not all, of the greatest Arhats, the first followers of Gautama Buddha, were Hindus and Aryans, not